So thanks very much, everybody, for joining the webinar for November. This is Ultima's Microsoft licensing webinar. My name is Ian Gerrard. I'm one of the licensing specialists, one of the Microsoft licensing specialists at Ultima. And my number and contact details are there on the screen. I hope you can all hear me okay. And like I say, if there are any questions, then please don't hesitate to put those questions down, and they will be captured as we go throughout the webinar. So the general subject we've gone for today is an all-round update in regards to Microsoft products, new updates and releases, and as always, some of the key things that I've been having conversations around for the last 30 days, for the last couple of months as well. So there's a few things on the agenda. We'll have a little bit of a look at SQL Server 2017, and then we'll have move on to Skype for Business and the collaboration with Teams and the coming together of those two brands, and effectively what it means for existing customers or new customers looking at their communications. We will then cover off some of the recent updates to Office 365, namely the F1 plan. And then coming on to look at other areas such as Visio, but also Microsoft Azure, and some of the exciting recent news in regards to reserved instances within Microsoft Azure. As I previously mentioned, if there is any other questions or any other business, then please feel free to let me know what those questions or what that request is. I do have some of my colleagues on the call as well, so they'll be able to take any questions as they arise. But first of all, what we're really going to be doing is looking at SQL Server 2017, just to cover this one off, really. And there's no change in the actual licensing. There's no price increase, so that's the first thing to kind of cover off. But it's actually the fact that it is now available on Linux, so you can move your Oracle databases to SQL Server. Yeah, it is now available to run on Linux as well. And the key point which I wanted to bring up here really in regards to licensing is that in actual fact Microsoft are providing the free licenses if you are making that move from Oracle to SQL Server. And not only are they providing essentially the free licenses, they're also providing an element of the support while that migration happens as well. Everything with Microsoft, there is a slight caveat in there, is that would require software assurance, an active software assurance subscription. And this basically means you'll be effectively buying just the software assurance only, with Microsoft granting those licenses to you. And for the period of the active software assurance, you would have those SQL Server licenses as appropriate to your organization, as appropriate to the size of the previous Oracle server or virtual server coming across to Microsoft SQL Server. Like I say, I'm talking about SQL Server 2017, but it is still that same licensing model and pricing structure from 2016 as well. So if this is something that does apply to your organization, where you think, well, actually we are looking to remove Oracle and move more across to Microsoft, then there's three simple steps to follow. Simply contact, speak to your Ultima account team, and we would effectively contact that Microsoft account management team, and we raise it to your executive that your organization basically wishes to claim the offer. We then go through a period of identification. We're identifying those workloads that you're looking to migrate, the number of processors, cores that they are running on, or the number of active operating systems or users or devices who are connecting to that. Once that's been identified, we can then look to migrate that server across and receive those relevant services to kind of kickstart that migration, that support and those services. Now, there is a finite number of these services from Microsoft, but they've said, and this offer is valid up until the 30th of June 2018, but they have said that this is something that there should be plenty of resources available. A slight caveat regarding that support services is that once they're gone, they are gone. But certainly the offer of the free licenses is effectively just buying into software assurance, which is about, saving you about 55%, 60% of the overall cost. Is a good offer, is a good deal for those services moving across from Oracle. I think that's very much the case with a lot of organisations I speak to as well. They are looking to make a move. The next subject is a subject which we do get asked a lot around, and it's certainly something which is very, very relevant and very topical for Microsoft, and it's regarding Skype for Business, really, and Microsoft Teams as well, the way that that works within this brand. So there's been a lot of talk and a lot of sorry, I mean they're not just talk. There's confirmation that effectively the Skype for Business and Microsoft Teams are coming together. Now, there's lots of information around this, and again, every organisation is going to have their own specific requirements or set of circumstances. But it's a good thing to cover off, because I think there's a degree of concern, certainly for those who've already invested or are looking to invest, which I'll just cover off now, really. So when we start thinking about Skype for Business and Microsoft Teams, and also I would throw Yammer and SharePoint and Exchange, you know, really we're talking about Microsoft's intelligent communications, their unified communications package. And the idea of collaborating Skype for Business specifically very, very closely to Microsoft Teams is the idea that you'd have a single hub for teamwork with this kind of built-in and integrated voice and video platform. Now, the actual fact that, you know, some of the truth, some of the technical reason is that the Microsoft Teams platform is actually more resilient than the Skype for Business one. And as the various phone systems are hosted, actually the Microsoft Teams is a slightly more secure platform. Now, there's no firm roadmap for the actual development of all of the features and functionality within Microsoft Teams. So really, you need to think about if you're a Skype for Business or customer, or you're looking at Skype for Business, it's still very much to continue down that path. The Skype for Business brand isn't going anywhere. And effectively, once the Microsoft Teams level of capabilities meets your business needs, at that point you can start potentially planning out that move across from Skype to Business to Microsoft Teams. But there's some important things to cover off here, and the fact that the Skype for Business servers, for example, you're on-premise, you're running Skype for Business on-premise, that is still going to be available. That's not going anywhere. In fact, I had a look at the roadmap just this week, and the new servers for Skype for Business are due to be released at the end of 2018. So certainly that on-premise option is not going anywhere. There's already been a bit of a renaming policy. You may have previously seen elements such as when we're thinking about Skype for Business telephony, we start thinking about PSTN conferencing, cloud PBX, and those have been changed to, you know, audio conferencing and phone systems. And you're going to kind of see that pop up, you know, see that surface within Teams as well. Those same individual components are available. And like I said before, that Skype brand isn't going anywhere. And just to cover that off, you're going to have Skype is for the consumer, Skype for Business is for the commercial sector. And you'll see that Skype for Business brand within the Teams, within the team page, within that single hub. So when it kind of comes for, you know, when it kind of comes to licensing, at the moment you can buy into, you know, E5 and get full Skype for Business telephony, and that's not changing. Or you can choose to buy the individual components like audio conferencing or like phone systems, or, you know, whatever you want for Skype for Business, and that's not changing. And we will see over time being similar. So it will be audio conferencing with Teams in the future. At the moment, that's not available. So, you know, you stay with Skype for Business until it is. And all of those organizations who have existing investments within Skype for Business, that is going to carry on into Teams. So, for example, if you did buy E5 or if you did buy audio conferencing, well, that audio conferencing will effectively be enabled within your Skype for Business client, but actually it's going to be enabled within your Teams package once it is available. So just to kind of re-emphasize this point, it's you continue to use Skype for Business until Teams meets your business needs. At that point, Microsoft will assist you, the customer, to move across to Teams with all the various tools and guidance to control and manage the process. So a lot of this really comes down to, well, okay, well, what's that? What does the Microsoft Teams roadmap, what does that look like? What is available? What isn't available? What's in development? What can we expect and when? And I would go back to that initial point. There is no massive firm roadmap around this will be available at this point, this will be available at this point. Probably the most relevant one that's in public preview right now is audio conferencing. And that's going to be that full audio conferencing is going to be available soon. So it's in public preview, and that full piece is going to be available soon. You know, the Outlook calendar is available fully now. Actually, Microsoft Teams is now hosted in the UK data center, so it's not over in Dublin anymore. It is in one of those UK data centers. Outlook calendars there. There's some you know, Teams within Androids, but I would still say, you know, those major workloads, that federated chat, meetings, online conferencing, online meetings, presence, voicemail, you know, all of that stuff is very much in development and not available yet. But it is something lots of customers are asking about, was should I be moving already? And that's not really, at the moment, it's kind of be aware this is happening, but it's all going to be an automatic thing. You're going to be guided through the process. Teams' workloads is not there yet, but it's coming, and lots is in development. So the advice is, if you're looking to implement Skype for Business for the first time, or you're for the start of that project, is very much to continue down that path and not really do anything different. And the whole transition doesn't really become relevant until some of the real major workloads are within Microsoft Teams. But it is relevant, and it is something lots of people are asking about. Moving on to some Office 365 updates now. I'm just going to pause to quickly check if there have been any, excuse me, any questions, and there haven't been, which is great. So I really wanted to cover off this new Office 365 Enterprise F1 plan, as people are getting their heads wrapped around it a little bit more. Now, it has been out since September, so it's not the newest, but it's always good to review and refresh ourselves. And when we say new features available, effectively, those users who are familiar with the kiosk plans, or K1, the enterprise features F1 as a direct replacement for that. But not only that, it offers some pretty great additional functionality. So I'm specifically talking about, you know what, access to Microsoft Teams, which kind of opens up the access to Skype for Business as well. So you'll see Skype for Business and Teams both on there as individual components. But really, the introduction of instant messaging and presence within Skype for Business within this F1 plan is a really great addition. Okay, you've still got the small, you know, the email, and you will still be able to check calendars, book, you know, log into your intranet site in regards to booking holiday, or so this is again for your retail worker, for the manufacturing worker, those who wouldn't, you know, who don't have a huge amount of time spent in front of a PC. Like I say, for those users who just need less functionality, but again need to access an email, check a calendar, and the addition of Skype for Business is great there. And as you can see, some of the staff hub for shift scheduling, it's that type of work with a very similar low price point without having to buy into the full. And you, of course, get Office Online, so that's the online version of Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. More and more organisations are looking at F1 now and really, you know, really taking it up with a good price point of under £3 a user per month. Not much flexibility on that price. You know, Microsoft have been quite clear in regards to their discount structure in this new financial year, which some of you may or may not have come up against, but really to leverage proper incentive from Microsoft in regards to the actual cost of the license. You're going to have to be looking at some of the larger plans and almost the Microsoft 365 plan. And I'll come on to that Microsoft 365 because that's different from this, which is Office 365. Office 365, as you can see, you have in the orange there, you can see you have the F1 plan up to E1, up to E3, and up to E5. And again, this is a bit of an eye chart, but this is a great comparison. these slides are going to be made available. So if you can see, well, actually, I'm interested in enterprise voice. I'm now going to have to commit for E5. Where if actually, if I want to have a copy of Office Pro Plus to locally install, right, great, I need at least E3. But actually, if I'm just looking to do some, you know, not really look to host a load of webinars or need some of the enterprise functionality, then E1 is probably where you sit, and as it goes down. And just to cover off those in the yellow, those business plans, that's really designed for organizations, 300 users or below. But again, there's some good value there, definitely, and it is still relevant because maybe there's subsections of your business, but really we're looking at those enterprise plans. But like I say, that's different. Office 365, those plans, that's around Skype and Exchange and Teams and Office, whereas Microsoft 365 actually, yeah, sure, includes Office 365, as you can see here. But the major point is Microsoft 365. It's the idea around Microsoft throughout your platform. So it's introducing the OS as well within Windows 10, Windows 10 Enterprise, and actually introducing that mobility piece as well, the Enterprise Mobility and Security Suite. And again, another breakdown of really what that offers, but effectively that Windows 10 Enterprise license. You can even go up to E5 where you can get some of the Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection and some of that device guard and kind of antivirus stuff within the OS. The Enterprise Mobility and Security Plan is where you would pick up Azure AD Premium. It would also be where you get the just had a mind blank. So yes, the full mobility piece, Intune and ATP, and yes, and there's another one as well. Brilliant. So more than happy to cover that off as well. But that's, like you say, the full Microsoft 365 Enterprise Plan. And returning a little bit to Microsoft's strategy for this financial year, certainly if you're an organization with an enterprise agreement coming up to renewal, or if you're looking to start a new enterprise agreement, Office 365 will leverage you to perhaps a certain layer, but to get the highest levels of incentive from Microsoft in regards to price, physical cost off the license, in regards to additional funding, ongoing support to make sure your users start consuming it. It's all around pushing this Microsoft 365. But like I say, that's the full platform. That is your operating system. It's the full mobility system center configuration managers thrown in there. You do get the on-premise server productivity rights. It's a great suite of products if you are looking to do that full suite. If you are looking to do the full piece across the board. Now there are some other updates which I'm just going to cover off now as well with Visio and Azure. With Visio Pro and Visio Pro and Visio Online, they are two separate products. Again, I think if you have a large use of Visio, it's worth kind of separating this conversation out and speaking to a specialist directly. But just to cover it off, because there have been some questions and some recent updates, so very quickly, with Visio Pro for Office 365, you are now able to search for that third-party content, which is a key element. So where you can start incorporating various templates and sample diagrams. With Visio Online, there are the new ways to kind of view those organizational diagrams, almost within any web browser, to be able to share this more easily across your organization with anyone from your organization with easier access and reduced rights and read rights as well. I do want to come across to Azure, and certainly I always think when I start doing smaller updates and putting elements of Azure at the end of webinars, very quickly I start realizing that actually this is almost an entire subject within itself. And almost certainly next month I'll probably be looking at some of the new news with Azure, and really two major pieces of news, and some of it's a little I wouldn't say under NDA, but still some of the news is being finalised. And I did want to cover that off. This is something that we can talk about, and certainly it's worth exploring further as relevant to your organization. But this is your commit. Really, if you've got, look, you're always going to have the pay as you go on the credit card. The CSP is a great tool. It's a great program, a great platform to purchase your Azure commit on a monthly basis. Allows you to flex up and down. We're just waiting for all of the workloads to come into CSP. So again, generally speaking, the advice is to utilize the server and cloud enrollment or an existing enterprise agreement, because that's where you're going to get the full suite of products and have the most flexibility in regards to what you actually have to commit. But Microsoft would generally always approach that EA and SCE path as well. Actually, we're going to make you do it annually, and if you don't consume what you've committed to on an annual basis, you will lose it at the end of the year. So the good news is that Microsoft are moving more towards a 3-year commitment level. So, for example, whereas previously you may have said, well, we're going to use £20,000 within Azure, so I'm going to commit to a 3-year SCE agreement, and year one I'm going to commit £20,000, and then at the end of year one I'll kind of decide where I want to be at year two. At the end of year two I'll decide where I want to be, so on and so forth. Now if you're a customer or an organization approaching that, you'll think, well, I'm going to sign a 3-year agreement, but rather than just pay that first year 20,000, that's actually going to be talked about, well, actually for 3 years I'm going to need 60,000. So Microsoft say we'll commit 60,000 up front, thank you very much, and that will last for the entire 3-year, for the entire 3-year agreement term. There are going to be, and there are still minimum requirements. I think the minimum requirement is actually around 36, or is going to be around 36k. But like I say, you also have the opportunity to commit lower and step up and do it that way. So that whole idea about having that larger upfront commit can still be managed as best suits your organization. I think that those who are on at the moment, you know that if you do commit low, once you kind of actually go into overage, once you exceed that commitment by 150%, you're going to start receiving quarterly bills. Again, that's a process that's changing, and that 150% is going to kind of be removed. And as soon as you go into that overage, you're going to be sent those additional overage invoices are going to be accumulated and sent through on a quarterly basis. And you know what? In about 6 months' time, that quarterly basis is going to change to a monthly basis. So ultimately, as a customer, you're going to have the choice to commit big and consume, or have more of a piecemeal approach and pay the overage. I think certainly Microsoft organizations are certainly directing partners to advise customers to, guess what, spend more money up front, commit larger up front, and then consume that over a longer period. We're realistic, and we obviously will run through the options with you and what works best for your organization. So I know lots of people do like the overage invoice, and the fact that you can allocate that to individual teams, or you can, smaller invoices effectively coming through might be better for your finance team. We will work with you for the best solution for your organization. Now, you see what I mean? The subject can get carried away. I could commit a whole webinar to this. The next piece is the great news regarding Azure reserved instances, which is basically a way to save up to 40%, in excess of 40% of your Azure services. And what it basically means is just spending a little bit more time in the planning. So rather than having an all-out commit for all Microsoft product, all Azure workloads, or whether it's DR or hosting virtual machines, or doing some Power BI or what have you, or full infrastructure as a service, or whatever it is, the alternative would be to be a bit more specific in regards to the choices you're making at the time of purchase, and you're actually reserving these specific instances within Azure, previously called actually compute pre-commit. But you can effectively say, well, actually, again, I'm going to choose my term. You then identify the type of virtual machine you want, for example, the D series or the E series, F series, whatever it is. You can allocate which data center you want to use, whether it has to be within the UK data center, whether we can use the Western Europe one, whether it needs to be in the US East, whatever it is. You can locate your data center choice. You can decide how long that virtual machine, that workload, needs to be active for. Does it need to be running 744 hours, 24/7 a month? or actually, can we take it down in the evenings? Can we take it down at weekends? The assignment level, are you going to assign that particular machine to that particular company or department? And this really allows you to, it does mean that you're quite prescriptive. You can't move, or if you do move, you're going to get, if you do move to other workloads or other types of virtual machines, you'll lose that's preferred price with reserved instances and just dip into your Azure commit instead. This almost works with the hybrid use benefit as well. So if you've got active software assurance on Windows Server data center licenses, you can continue to use those licenses on premise, but also offset the cost of the Windows virtual machine within Azure. If you've got Windows Server standard with software assurance, you can do that as well with a hybrid use benefit within Azure, but you can't concurrently run that on premise. Just bear that in mind. But this whole Azure commit and introduction of Azure reserved instances is an entire subject, an entire webinar, an entire half-day workshop, longer or more. But that might be something I'll look at next month. And please speak to your Ultima account team, to Microsoft, to myself, to another licensing specialist regarding this. So we'll have an impact on those who've already made the move, those who are looking to it, those who are planning it, or those who simply want to have the latest information to understand the options. AWS or Azure is still a relevant and prevalent conversation. Of course, I'm going to say Azure, but there's a commercial and technical and reasons for that. So that brings us to the end of the webinar. Thank you very, very much for your time. I see that there have been no questions, but I will pause for a moment. Did it in the 25 minutes, so let me know if you have any questions, please. Okay, great, no problem. Well, thanks very much for your time. And like I say, this webinar will be made available. The slides will be sent through. Please contact your Microsoft licensing specialist or Ultima account team to know more, or myself, Ian Gerrard, at ian.gerrard@ultima.com. And thanks very much.